Thanks for inviting me along, Obi.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I mean, the work that you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
She's going to be in San Diego County all week. Red-legged frogs, Torrey pines, border wall, all of it.
Yeah. All kinds of interesting topics.
Coming in season 3, is that right?
Season 3 wrapped up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I interviewed Obi for season 3.
Yeah.
And then season 4 is going to start. I'm not giving a date. I have not mentioned one because it depends on how long it takes me to gather all of these interviews. I'm trying to represent as much of the state as I can because I live in Sacramento and it's easy to drive anywhere within 2 or 3 hours of Sacramento, and I realize that I over-represent that area. But I've had a trip to LA before, and now I'm doing this trip to San Diego because there's so much of this biodiversity you're talking about throughout the state. And as you change the latitude, you change what that biodiversity looks like.
Yep.
So how much can we tap into that?
Yes.
So that's the idea. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So
I'm all about it.
I want to shift in some questions about the field atlases.
Okay.
And particularly deserts, but a lot of these questions refer to the field atlases in general. The first one, as another creator of things, I want to understand your workflow. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but Obi produces, I don't get it because it's like such consistently high quality work, but fast. And I feel like I have to choose, right? Like I feel like if I'm gonna go fast, it's gonna be not as good. And if I'm gonna go good, it's gonna be not as fast. But how? How do you do that? So that's my question for you. What does your workflow look like? How do you have that quality and the output?
That quote from Mark Twain, I don't know, it's attributed to him. I don't know if Mark Twain ever said anything. But he says, it's like 90% perspiration, 10% inspiration. So I get up every day and do it. I don't have kids. You have 2 kids. I don't know how parents do anything. So, I've got a cute little dog, and I have a really talented, intelligent wife, and we just have our 1-bedroom apartment. And I don't have to turn on my car very much because I am a city boy, going out backpacking as much as I can. But I love having bookstores in walking distance and the best organic produce within walking distance, and I can go for a week or 2 without turning on my car. So I get up every morning, and the coffee can't get strong enough.
All right, so it's just rocket fuel. And work.
Well, I got handed this book contract in 2016. It was my first book, the California Field Atlas, and I felt like I was like a cartoon character, like Wile E. Coyote or something, like being handed like a lit stick of dynamite. It's called The Deadline. Go. The first version of the California Field Atlas was over 1,000 pages, and thank God for editors. They still threaten to we're coming up on the 10th anniversary. There might be like a huge annotated edition of the California Field Atlas coming out soon, but don't hold your breath. But that responsibility. Okay, so I've been an artist for a long time, and I tried to work the gallery scene. I've had solo shows in San Francisco and LA and New York, and it's just like I was doing big moody oil paintings for the past 20 years before this, and then like giving it all away to the thing that I love most in the universe, which is the more than human world of California. The business plan started to click, and it's like, oh well, here it is. Finally leave my day job, that kind of thing.
And so it's this ability to take that energy, right? And it sounds like you've reignited that energy into something that you're much more passionate about.
Well, I mentioned Wilson, I mentioned Barry, I mentioned Leopold. God, there's a lot of dead white guys. But now I would say something like Robin Wall Kimmerer, who's like bridging this popular vocabulary between the indigenous critique and the botanical sciences, which is her area of study. And in Braiding Sweetgrass is another book you should have at home on your shelf and keep going back to, as I do. This word reciprocation comes up. So the idea of giving back, the idea of being in conversation with this very best of all stories, that's the thing. And to be able to engage in that and to be able to present it to this electric citizenry is is like the definition of community, common unity, which I think is like much deeper and much cooler to talk about than the political temperament of the day.
I agree. Yeah, and it's such a privilege to be able to do it.
Yeah.
To get to do something sort of parallel to what you're doing, and it's just an incredible privilege.
Privilege, honor. Yeah, I kind of like the word honor more than privilege. Like, you know, because it's more like incumbent on the responsibility of what you've been given by those who came before. You know.
Building on that.
Yeah, the abundance of gratitude in that regard. Yeah.
And I have another workflow question for you. And it sounds like you're in Oakland and you're working there. Do you ever work in the field for your paintings, or are you more spending time there observing and then bringing all that back?
Yeah. The best paintings happen at my desk in my studio. You know, I go backpacking 2 or 3 times a month. I try and get out as much as I can, and it's usually just the iPhone camera. You know, I mean, the photography is just so great, especially, you know, getting into birding. It's like, you know, what good is it just being frustrated out there with my palette? When I'm back at my desk, every single one of my paintings takes about 10 minutes. If it takes more than 10 minutes, it's probably going to suck and it's overworked. So I throw out a lot of bad paintings, but it strikes me as kind of like a yoga posture, or even like a calligraphic movement that happens through me. And when I get it, that's it. Drop the brush and walk away.
It sounds like you can find more of a flow state.
That's exactly
in that
correct.
environment. Yeah.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
And that gets back to my father teaching me calculus in high school. You know, it's like stack of paper, can of sharp number 2s.
Yes.
You know, and we're doing calculus homework for 2.5 hours every night. You know, and it's like, yeah, I still kind of work that way. You know.
We had very different upbringings, Obi.
Yeah.
And I want to think too, like, so much of your work is about place, right? Like that is, you talk about these different characters going up and down the coast of California with these coasts of California and these different characters. And there's so much that you can capture in the form of a book, but I also wonder about the things that don't fit within the pages of a book, right? There's certain things that the medium itself might be limited. And I think about when we hiked Mount Diablo together last April. The thing that sticks with me about that hike is the scent profile, right? Like it's black sage, it's ceanothus, it was California bay laurels. So I'm curious if you can tell us if there is a scent profile, if you could put scents of the deserts of California, if you could add that to your book. What would be
California's body odor.
California's
The plant body.
what would you do? What would you add?
That's interesting. Yeah, the scent profile. Well, I was thinking more like it goes off of like conversation. Even like what we're doing now, I'm finding it as rewarding as I was presenting my work to you just as a soliloquy. Now we've got this discourse going on. It's much more rewarding. You know, you do the podcast thing. I do a podcast thing too called Place and Purpose. Please check this out. Every month I sit down with the chairman of the Federated Indians of Great and Rancheria. His name is Greg Saras. He's also a Stanford literature professor and a steward of Southern Pomo narratives. And we talk exactly about this and we have these live conversations underneath these ancient bay laurel trees. And that is... I just had another thought about your scent profile thing, because there is that threshold when you're sitting there underneath the bay laurels and the scents are coming in. I almost wonder too, like as you are moving through the forest, you are breathing in hundreds of thousands of spores with every breath. Like the diversity of microbial life that gets into your lungs. When you're breathing in the scent of a plant, you're breathing in the plant. Those are chemicals that the plant is made by its own sort of evolutionary chemical, warfare. Really, is what it is. Essential oils, like the sage smell, is like, they don't make it for you to enjoy. They make it to defend themselves from particular kinds of insects and other kinds of herbivorous creatures, and to be, in general, to prevent as much grazing as possible. And yet they like the grazing. from creatures that are no longer extant. But I think that this would lead to like a bigger criticism of somebody like an Elon Musk, for example, and the whole Mars trajectory thing. It's like your body is a endosymbiotic holobiont. You are not just a person. You are a entire system of life throughout every single one of your several trillion cells.
A community.
A community, that's right. And to bring the soil biome, which is linked to human health and human fecundity, to something like the regolith of Mars. You know, soil scientists will like condemn you if they'll get on your case if you start talking about Mars dirt or Mars soil. Mars does not have dirt or soil. It has regolith. It's dead. Nothing on Earth, even the deserts of California are nothing compared to what Mars regolith is.
Yeah. There's life in every
There's life
grain.
in everything, and it goes down into the lithosphere. There's more life on planet Earth than we can possibly even imagine. Given the lichenizing effect between potentially millions and millions of microbes in the soil, if we were to take even the mycorrhiza from just the top 10 centimeters of topsoil across the biosphere, if we were to somehow like magically extract all of that life and then use some sort of like cosmic steamroller to like squish it to be one molecule thick, it would form a piece of fabric that is half the size of the known universe. It would be billions of light years across. Like that's how much life is here. Right. And making that happen somewhere else in any sort of conceivable time span seems like a basic assumption that we're missing in this popularizing of colonizing some other planet. Whatever that would take, it's cleaning up whatever mess we made here would be a fraction of that cost.
It strikes me as a very misguided interpretation of this individualist idea that we have, right? Like the misconception that I am an individual. And if I am an individual, I can go to Mars and be an individual there, which is not at all reflective of reality of the situation.
Probably.
Yeah, and I'm wondering too, one of the things, I've got two more questions for you because I want to respect everyone's time. And if anyone else has questions, open it up to anyone else's questions as well. Two more questions for you. You've written 4 of these field atlases.
4 of the big ones.
There's
also another book that you all do an offer, which is The State of Water, Understanding California's Most Precious Resource. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
There's the one.
And then The State of Fire, Why California Burns, is going to complement that. It's a little thin book like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm curious, after writing 4 of these and 2 more smaller ones, how have you changed? Has it changed you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Fundamentally a different person. I mean, in body and mind, right? 7 years is what it takes to become a whole new person. I am amazed at how better life can be, and to the young people who are struggling to find their own voice, I would say stick with it. I think, like, to the young people, I would say we need more scientists. I think that any minute now we're going to get a new Darwin, and I think that she's going to reveal to us mathematical models of how cooperation exists as much as competition does, in sort of contradicting Tennyson's nature writ in claw and tooth.
I love that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Very good.
All right, and the final one.
Okay.
Okay,
I like this lightning
final
round.
question.
Yeah. Thank you for preparing this. This is
Yeah,
fun.
no, this is really fun. I just sat there in my little Airbnb kitchen and wrote down a bunch of things. It was beautiful, actually.
Wonderful.
You've talked about since the beginning of the California Field Atlases this idea, and you mentioned it tonight, of learning to be more from here, and that is a continuum, right? There's no arrival there. But on that continuum, do you feel like you've learned how to be more from here?
To some degree. I think like it really comes to, and this is a good place to end, I suppose, because it really comes to a culmination in this fire book that I just wrote. light the whole thing up. Just like California's ecosystems, arboreal anyway, and chaparral ecosystems tend towards this climax moment when, through function of their own adaptive cycle inside of new growth, conservation, homeostasis, energy release, that this whole process of bookmaking over the past 10 years has really moved through me. And now I am looking at the snag forest, right? After the fire happens, you can all see it. You know what a snag forest is with those gray sticks. After a few years, you get the understory coming back. You get it more in like the coniferous woodlands of Northern California. Down here, you get chaparral. Chaparral is always a crown fire, but you still get it in the riparian areas here in Southern California as well. Inside the snag forest, biodiversity is greater than inside old growth forests. There is, in so many respects, especially in terms of songbirds, for example, but in terms of number of species, and because of fire exclusion over the past 100 years, snag forest habitat is more rare than old growth forest habitat across in most old growth woodland type associations. There's like 16 from the firs, spruces, pines, all these, through the coastal redwood, through all of these different types of tree variations. Snag forest is more rare than old growth forest, leading to a conclusion that more fire equals more biodiversity. The fire historian Stephen Pine said so much when he said, in California, pyrodiversity equals biodiversity. Yeah.
Well, thank you for burning for us.
Right.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Thank you. Right on. Thank you.